and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Well, there's a lot going on, so let's start with some of the stories that I found. Interesting story coming out from Journalist Resource. And there's been a study that indicates that the language on this is incredibly loaded. I should make this point. Um, Researchers analyzed almost 6,000 political news stories produced by partisan and nonpartisan media outlets in 2021. And one of the things that they're saying is that media outlets with extreme biases, far left or far right, and again, we have to unpack what those words mean here, use simpler language and they're less
No.
formal language.
I
And yes.
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, but and there's more to it than this, but I find it fascinating that maybe one reason why people might gravitate to things that people find out of the mainstream is that the people who are presenting these ideas are using simpler language. Now, there is an absolute time and a place. You're going to have to use more advanced language. You're going to have to introduce higher level concepts. That is reality. But at the same time, what we're seeing here is that if people are taking the time to use simple language, to be straightforward in their communications, people may be more likely to pay some attention to it and be at least willing to consider out of the mainstream ideas. One of my problems with far left and far right here is they're using that in a very negative way. It's pejorative, the language that's being used in this study and the reporting on it. And I think that that's its own special kind of something because, for example, there are people out there who say that anybody who is not in lockstep with the DNC is either conservative or they are far left, when it just may be somebody who holds to many fairly normal and everyday positions on things, but simply is very critical of a political party and its machinations, or may not be hawkish, doesn't like the fact that there's a war machine or that there's a debt machine. But I thought that this was something that I wanted to bring to people, why so many people identify and connect with non-mainstream media is in many cases because they're taking the time, or people were taking the time to communicate in more simple language, to communicate effectively, and to make those kinds of connections.
Okay, so there's a couple things to unpack here. First of all, number one, the way this article is saying, "Oh, far left, far right," need to be speaking to in a much more simpler tone. First of all, I remember the 2016 election and the way they wrote those piss poor articles. I remember the 2016 election in which our politicians were and our media was systematically trying to say, oh, we all have to support Hillary Clinton because she's the better of the candidates. These articles and those articles that were being presented, never forget that Jimmy Dore covered that too way back in 2016. What was the press pit doing? They were all click copying and pasting each other's articles, maybe rewriting it here and there to where it was so simple it was even ignoring what was the main story. No. The reason why corporate media in a whole is being ignored by people is because, one, independent media knows how to talk to regular people. I'm not sitting here dumbing it down. Lainey is not here telling you all these issues that you need to know about Civically Minded and dumbing it down. No, we are repeating to you guys facts and information so all of you can absorb it, ascertain it, and make your own opinions. You know, we're going to treat you like adults, respect you and your intelligence, because I know that my audience can at least make their own decisions. I know to you guys and gals, when we do this show, we present to you these stories, these events that are happening, and then it's up to you guys to come to your own conclusions. Corporate media, what they do is present the stories and tell you that if you think differently or if you step outside the box, well, you're wrong, or you're being stupid, or you need to be talked to in a much more simpler tone. That's the failure of the media. The system's already in place to talk to you dumb. It is already there. It's in place. My God, it is in place already. Why do you think they're censoring independent media? Is it because, oh, we know how to really talk to people? Or is that we really know how to communicate facts and information to empower people? That's why I say the YouTube censorship's real. It wasn't this bad before, folks. And it's going to keep on getting worse. And the whole idea of far left, far right, you know what frightens the establishment is us talking to each other and realizing that something is fundamentally wrong with our democracy. Simple as that.
Well, it's just it's funny to see what I would call the establishment saying, "Oh dear," at this point, when they realize that maybe there are things that they could be doing to make their coverage easier to understand, more clear, less double talk, and again, getting paying for decent editors and that sort of thing could also be incredibly helpful. It also reminds me of something, though. Within the medical profession, you'll hear certain practitioners talk about so-called quacks.
Mhm.
And while I agree that there are definitely quacks that are selling essentially snake oil and false hope to people with medical conditions, the one thing to keep in mind is that a lot of these quacks, because they're not being contained by, say, insurance regulations, spend a lot of time talking to patients. And that's why people will actually go to quacks, even though they are quacks, because they're giving people attention. And it may very well be that some of the so-called fringe media outlets out there, and they probably put us into that category. The fact is we're giving more attention. We try to connect with the people who are watching or reading our content or working with consuming our content.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think that there is that aspect as well. There are other things happening here. It's very easy to dismiss
Mm.
somebody who's on the periphery without saying, well, why are people attracted to this? And why are people doing this? And maybe because we're trying to serve the individuals who are consuming the media, or we're trying to serve people or paying attention to people who are sick. That's what can happen. So interesting article. And I thought it was kind of apropos given what we do.
Absolutely. And as a final note too, folks, look, corporate media will sit here and talk to you in a way that insults your intelligence. Independent media, it's here to empower you. And that's why we exist. And that's why I'm glad we do this show, Hard Lens Media, every day. And I'm going to keep on pushing forward doing this show because I love it. That's why.